Hello everyone. This is your video to help you with the research paper, which is 20% of your grade for the entire semester. So you don't want to do poorly on this assignment. You really want to do well on it. And so I've got this video that I've made up. I'm going to try to keep it at under 30 minutes, although this is at the beginning of the taping. So you can look down at the bottom on the timestamp and see if I kept it under 30 minutes or not. But hopefully I can. I'm going to try to give you all the information in this video that you need to do well on the research paper, to find the resources you need to do on the research paper, either in the library's website or on the D2L website for our page. And with this information, hopefully things will be clear. If not, you can always send me an email. If you ask me a question that I've answered in this video, my first question will be, well, did you watch the video? But if there's something that clearly I could see that you've not gotten because I may not have covered it in the video or may not have covered it in the assignment, then I'll go ahead and answer those questions for you. So I want you to do well on this paper. This is going to take the remainder of the semester. We will still have some reading assignments, but still, just go ahead and watch this video. The first thing I want you to do before you continue on with this video is hit the pause button and go to print these up. These are the instructions, or you don't have to print them up if you don't have a printer, but at least have them minimized in your screen while you're watching this video so that you can follow along, because I'm going to go right through this little assignment. What you do is you go into our page, you go into the research paper folder, and at the very tip top will be the instructions on the research paper, what my expectations are. My expectations are outlined very clearly in this. I say, in fact, there's actually a section, what I expect. Another section, this is what we're doing in this assignment. So, take the time to pause this video, either print the instructions out or at least open them and have them minimized so you can follow along. In fact, you could, if you have it in your computer, you don't really need to look at me because you know, I'm not going to have any special effects or any special videos or anything like that in here. So you could actually follow along with this as you go along. So I'll pause for a second so you can pause. Okay, welcome back. All right, so let's, by looking at this paper, let's go ahead and go down it page by page. So the research paper, here's the timeline. By next Wednesday, which is the same day, by the way, that the MLA quizzes and the research quiz are due. There's also, I want to see your topic proposal and your annotated bibliography. Now, if you look through that research paper folder while you're in it, there's all kinds of resources in there to help you out with this. At the very bottom of the folder, there are 3 samples, 2 of them on Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus and 1 of them on Milton's Paradise Lost. And you'll see that the instructor that the students wrote these papers for is Matt Brown, because Matt Brown is the early British literature instructor. I'm the one that covers all the late British literature. So he covers that. And so he used 3 of his students' outstanding papers that got A's, and they're all good. I've read through them. So he's given those papers to you to look at. One of them actually has the entire sequence, the topic proposal, the annotated bibliography, and then the final paper, and that's one of the Faustus papers there. Notice they did change the names of the students so that you don't know who actually wrote them. They're just fictional names that he added on there. At the very top of that research paper folder, right below where the instructions are, is the QEP sequence. The QEP is short for Quality Enhancement Program. And what happens with the QEP is every 10 years we have to get recertified by SACS, which is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, in order for your degree to mean something. And what this accreditation does is it shows us at Darton where we're excelling, and then it shows us where we need to up our game a little bit. And so it really benefits you, the student, that we have to get these accreditations. One of the things we had to do this time around, because our QEP occurred last year, is that we had to come up with a plan to help students do some research, gather the information, and then do what we call synthesizing it, which means putting the information into the paper and making some good use of it. And so this plan that we've got is outlined in that QEP sequence handout. Um, and also in there, what you can do is it's got some helpful hints for you on what to do on the topic proposal and the annotated bibliography. Now, as good as the annotated bibliography is, I like my version better because this is what I think is a useful annotated bibliography. The good thing about the sample annotated bibliography that's at the bottom of the page on Dr. Faustus is that this student actually was required to put direct quotes in the annotated bibliography that he plans on using in the paper. I'm not going to go so far as to require that, although it's not a bad idea if you have a direct quote to go ahead and put it in your annotated bibliography so you don't have to go flipping through the article. But there are a couple of handouts that I have. One is a sample annotated bibliography that I put together based upon Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was written by Robert Louis Stevenson and published in 1886. In there, you'll notice that every entry is done in MLA format. And when we get to talking about this paper, actually, I'll go ahead and talk about that now. There is a handout in your MLA folder, I think it is, that's about using the cite tool and creating a hanging indent for your works cited page. That handout is designed especially to show you how to, when you go into Galileo, actually come up with an MLA formatted entry that will work on your works cited page. That same entry goes into your annotated bibliography. So as you're, and again, it might be useful as you're looking at that to go into the actual annotated bibliography itself and see how I formatted this thing. It is MLA. So you copy and paste using the cite tool into there, and you create the hanging indent, which again, that folder, that handout that's in the folder telling you how to use the cite tool and create the hanging indent, we'll show you how to do. Then notice that I have some information about that particular source. So in my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde one, I think I have 1 book and 2 journal articles. And I have the primary source, which is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's an important key. Your annotated bibliography and your works cited page in the final paper needs to include the actual source that you're writing about. So it needs to include an entry for the poem or for the short story or for the essay that you have chosen to do your research on and write your paper on. So that also, I can't stress this enough, has to be in there, or else I'll knock off points. Your annotations, you'll notice that I have about 2 paragraphs per annotation. And one of them is a little brief summary of what's in the actual work. Now, don't copy and paste the abstract out of Galileo because that's plagiarism and will get you a 0. So you don't want to do that. However, you do want to use that abstract to your advantage to help you gain the information that you need. And because some of these articles may be pretty long, so you'll want to make sure that you give me as much information as you can, even if you don't have time to read all 30 pages. The other part is how you plan to use the information in it. Notice in my annotated bibliography on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the second paragraph of every annotation is, I plan to use this article to, bam, whatever it is. And don't just say, I plan to use this article to help me in this paper. Well, my reaction to that is, well, duh, no kidding. So don't just give me something simple like that. Tell me how it's going to help me. I plan to use this article to help me explain how Dr. Jekyll is actually addicted to Mr. Hyde and therefore cannot break the cycle of becoming Hyde. So something like that would be how you plan to use it. Not, I plan to use this article to help me. Because, well, if it wasn't going to help you, you wouldn't be using it. Okay? So look at that. Also look at the other 2 handouts. I have one by the Purdue OWL and one by IUPUI, which is Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis. That also helps you write really good annotated bibliographies and has sample annotated bibliographies in them. All right. So that's in that part of the folder. And then I've got some PowerPoint slideshows on how to use research and how to incorporate it into your paper. Also can be helpful with this is the Purdue OWL. I should have, by the time you see this video, I should have a link directly to the Purdue OWL on our class homepage. It'll be right above the week 13 video. So look for that link there. You can click that, boom, you're in the MLA page of the Purdue Owl. You also have the option of using the My Blank English book that you should have bought for your English 1101 and or English 1102 class. So that My Blank English book has a whole section on the research paper for 1102, which will be similar to the literature research because your 1102 paper should have been on a work of literature. And in the back, starting on page 464, is a whole section on MLA and how to format quotations and how to format the works cited page and how to do other useful stuff. So put all that to work for you. These resources are designed to help you do well in this paper. I also have in this folder something called a pre-writing plan. This is a plan that you can download and you can print up, it's a PDF file, and you can actually use it to help you plan your essay. Where it says topic across the top, I would write your thesis statement in there. And we'll talk about the thesis statement in a minute. And then it has 3 different sections for your 3 main points and then some blanks on how you would develop those main points. If you use this pre-writing plan before you write your essay, you might find writing your essay is a little bit easier. Now, not everybody does well with writing out plans. Some of you will use the topic proposal as a way to plan your essay. Some of you may do something called free writing, where you just empty out everything that's in your head onto the page, and then you go in and you pick out all the useful stuff and discard the rest. That's another very useful way to plan out an essay and start writing the essay. So there's all kinds of ways that depends on your writing style. And some of these you may have worked on really hard in English 1101, 1102. Some of these you just may innately know how to do, but use whatever works best for you to get a good grade on this paper. All right. Man, I can't even read my own handwriting there. There should also be a handout on the research paper, I think is what that says. So, or not on the research paper, but on writing on literature. So go ahead and take a look at that as well. So that's all in the folder, the research paper folder. The MLA folder has other useful resources as well, like how to format certain quotations and how to format your works cited entries. That should be where you find the using the cite tool and creating hang indent one. It's also where you do the formatting, which I'm going to talk about in a minute when we go through this. So that's all the stuff that you can find in the PowerPoint folder. You also, as I said in the video on the quizzes, you also have resources in the library's website that can help you with research and that can help you with formatting. If you live in Albany and you can get by the Information Literacy Center during the research stage, you should go ahead and do that. You should visit them and say, hey, I've got this research paper. Give them this because they're going to want to see it and say, this is what's expected of me. And they can help you with your research on your chosen author or your chosen piece of literature. We also have a writing center on campus. It's in the C building. It's a brand new one. They just opened it this past fall. They can help you with the actual writing of the paper once you've done a first draft. They can help you with the editing. They can help you with revisions. And there's one more research source that you can get help from on campus. And you're looking at him right here. My office is in F120, or in the F building, which is the Humanities building, right directly across the street from the Cavalier Arena. I'm in room 121C. So 121 is a suite of offices. If you were to go through the front door of the Humanities building, take a left, then take a, go to the end of that short little hallway right there in front of the art studio, take a right, and you'll see a suite of offices on your right-hand side, which is 121. I'm in room C as in cat. Come visit me during my office hours. My office hours are on your syllabus, but sometimes you might catch me in there at a time when it's not my office hours. Come see me, and I will help you with your research paper also. All right. So let's go to this handout, which I told you to print out about, 15 minutes ago. And let's go through it line by line. So the timeline is this. Next Wednesday, April the 15th, is going to be the due date for your topic proposal and your annotated bibliography. Again, I've shown you where to find examples and information on how to do this in the research paper folder of D2L. The topic proposal should be no more than 1 page. I mean, 250 words, 1 page, double space, MLA format, that's it. That's all I need. In your topic proposal, you're going to tell me essentially what you're going to work on, which work of literature you're writing about, what your thesis statement is. You should try to come up with a thesis statement, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, and how you plan to develop that thesis. And then the annotated bibliography I've already talked about. Monday, April the 20th, so that is 2 weeks from today, will be your first draft. And by 2 weeks from today, I mean 2 weeks from today, April the 6th. So 2 weeks from today, your first draft. So you've got a week and a half to do the research. You should get a first draft written by the 20th. During the week of the 20th to the 24th, I will actually go through your paper and give you notes on how to improve it. And I will do that as early in the week as I can so you can have more time to make any revisions or edits that you need to. This class isn't all that large, so I should be able to get through them all. And then on May the 1st, which is the last day of the semester, which is a Friday, I expect your final draft in the box. Notice the note here that says that that the Dropbox will shut off on the night of May the 1st. And if you don't have that final draft in by Friday night, May the 1st, I won't accept late drafts unless you've really got some kind of an emergency that you've actually worked out with me ahead of time. I have to insist on this because the next week will be your final exam, and then I have to submit your grades to the registrar. And I want to have time to grade your essay and give you my comments on it before you go to the registrar, or before I go to the registrar and submit your grades. So I have to be strict on this deadline of May the 1st being the final draft, and I'll keep reminding you of that throughout the semester. Page length 4 to 6 pages, not including your works cited page. So if you give me a 3-page essay and a works cited page, that doesn't count for the 4 pages. You cannot really develop an essay very well at this level. Now you could, in your 1101 class, but at this level you cannot really develop an essay well if you don't give me at least 4 pages to 6 pages. You're going to need to use your research effectively. Okay, the assignment overview. For this assignment, which is worth 20% of your overall grade, you will expand upon one of your postings by bringing in the work of literary scholars to supplement your own work. So this is why these postings have been so important, and why I've been giving you notes in the early part of the semester and then later on. If you have a specific author you want to write about and you didn't get like a real high grade on that posting, contact me through email and I'll give you some more notes on how that posting went and why you might have gotten a lower grade than you wanted to. If you got a 10 on the posting, then it's probably, okay, all full steam ahead, keep going. So in fact, most likely you'll probably choose a posting you got like a 10 or possibly a 9 on in order to do the assignment. So let me repeat. Notice this is all bold and all caps. Let me repeat. You are simply expanding one of your already written postings by bringing in experts to help you sustain your claims. So whatever your thesis was in that posting, you need to now write a larger paper on it. And it can be any author and any work of literature that we've read this semester that you want it to be. All right. Note, by literary scholars, I mean individuals who have published in peer-reviewed academic journals or who have published books from reputable academic publishers. There are videos in the library's website. In fact, let me get to that now. So if you go under Darton, from the Darton homepage, you go to the academics, you get that little drop-down menu, you go into library. The 4th link down, I think it is, will be DSC LibGuides. We talked about this already in the actual quizzes video, but let's go ahead and do that again. So you're on the Darton homepage, you go to academics, you get that drop-down menu, you go to library, and then I think it's the 4th link down will be LibGuides, DSC LibGuides. Then go ahead and click the look for the useful, or look under helpful links. So if you go under helpful links, there are video tutorials. So it'll be on the right hand side of that page, right underneath the picture of Miss Nemajovsky. There is video tutorials. And then you can go into the Galileo link. This will show you how to use Galileo effectively. It will also have we'll go down to a different link tab for this one. So it will have Galileo link, and it will have all kinds of information there on how to use Galileo effectively. If you go to that same LibGuides page, there will be Library Research Help tab across the top. So you'll click that, you'll scroll down to Scholarly, I Can you read my own handwriting? Scholarly. Anyway, there's a scholarly video you can watch, and it tells you how to find peer-reviewed sources. All of your sources in this paper need to be peer-reviewed if it comes out of a journal, out of Galileo. It also, if you use a book, it should be out of our library and should be from a reputable academic publisher. And those aren't hard to find. If it says Harvard University Press, well, it's probably a pretty good book because Harvard is such a good university. All right, so those are the resources that you need to use for this. Do not use Galileo. I apologize. Do use Galileo. Do not use Google is what I was trying to say. So do not use Google. Use only Galileo or use Gill to find library books. And if the book you want is not on the shelf at Darton, contact me. I can show you how to use something called interlibrary loan that will get you books from other libraries. You do need at least one source from Galileo, though. You can't have only books. You need some Galileo resources. All right. So by literary scholars, I mean individuals that have published. We've already talked about that. All right. Here are the sources you are forbidden from quoting. If I find these in your paper, I will count off. And if you try to quote them anyway and don't cite them, I will count that as plagiarism, and that's even worse. Wikipedia. Your 1101, 1102 teacher should have told you why Wikipedia is not acceptable. SparkNotes, Book Rags, Pink Money, Google, Speak Monkey, anything you found on Google. Amateur blogs. If somebody can sit in their basement eating Cheetos and playing Xbox and then maybe throw something on the internet and call it an academic paper, it's probably not very good. And especially any website that sells essays to students to try to get out of writing their assignments. If you quote a source from something like 123helpme.com or my favorite, eCheat, you will get a 0 on the paper because these are designed to help you cheat. They are not designed to help you write your own papers. So if you can pull out a credit card and purchase a paper with it, you don't need to be at that website. You only need to go to the reputable publishers. Rule of thumb, if I can find it with a simple Google search, it probably is not good enough to be in your paper. So we are trying to teach you how to do real research. We're trying to teach you how to do credible research. We're trying to teach you how to use valuable research in order to get this assignment done. All right, so that means what sources can you use? I'm glad you asked. You will only be using sources that you find using any of the databases that can be accessed through Galileo at the Darton website. Refer to the Using Library Resources slideshow. And I am currently working on a handout that you can print and refer to, which is already, this has been posted already. The Spring Galileo password. I've actually put this in 2 spots on here. So if you send me an email saying I'm trying to get into Galileo and I don't know what the password is, my response to you won't be to say the word trials. My response to you will be say, open up your handout and look at it because it's on there twice. So the Spring Galileo password is trials. And you can see it's in all lowercase letters. And it's like, one way to remember it is like trials and tribulations or, multiple court cases or something like that. So trials is what this is. You won't need it if you're in the library. You won't need it if you're in the computer lab in Building A. But you will need it if you're at home or if you're at Starbucks or wherever you're doing your research off campus. You'll need the password. And again, since I put it on here twice, don't send me an email asking what the password is because I'll send you back to this handout. All right. So here's the assignment step by step. Choose one of your weekly postings. Go to the library homepage using the Gill or the Galileo. Find a minimum of 3. 3 to 5 is ideal. You don't want more than 5 because your paper should only be about 15 to 20% quotations. Everything else should be you. So don't think that giving me a whole bunch of quotations and it comes back as 70% matches from outside sources, even if you cite them properly, that will still be incorrect because I want to know what you have to say about the subject. You're bringing in the experts to support you. You're not giving me a summary of what the other experts say. And this is something that I've seen in student papers sometimes. According to so-and-so's article, he says blah, 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 and you give me a whole summary of the article. No, give me a quotation out of that article that helps back your point up. I want to know what your thesis is. I want to know what you have to say to develop that thesis. I don't need to know what Harold Bloom has to say about your work because I'm pretty sure I know anyway because Harold Bloom is such a popular scholar. So, minimum of 3 outside sources. 3 to 5 is ideal. Incorporate your research into your already existing posting to make a full-length essay. You're going to have to add a lot to this posting. These postings, remember, are only about a paragraph or 2. So, usually 2 paragraphs. Well, now you're turning those two paragraphs into 4 pages by fully exploring your topic rather than just touching on it briefly. All right, here's a reminder of what a good essay consists of. This is something you should have learned in English 1101. It should have a nice introduction. You should not open the essay with your thesis statement. There should be a thesis statement, which is clear and precise and tells me exactly what your essay is going to be about. There should be a good topic sentence in each paragraph that will tell me what each paragraph is about. There should be enough development in each paragraph to fully support the main point you're trying to make. And then you should have a conclusion to wrap things up. I should not feel like when I get to the end of your essay that you still had more to say. I should not feel like when I get to the end of the essay that you just stopped typing right in the middle of it and submitted it for a grade. So there should be a nice conclusion to wrap everything up. So make sure that you actually give me a well-structured essay. And we're going to talk more about that when we get into the rubric. What do I expect from this essay? Notice it's in bold letters, all caps, and underlined. What I expect from this essay. So if you say in your student survey at the end of the semester that you didn't know what my expectations were on this paper, I'm going to say, yeah, look at that. Okay. What do I expect from this essay? I expect your essay will supplement your argument, not that it will dominate it. Again, you will get to see your originality report whenever you turn in this essay. And don't plagiarize and see that as a 95% and then say, oh, I submitted the wrong paper and submit a different one, because I will still give you a 0. Because I'm not stupid. I know you meant to plagiarize and then caught yourself when you saw the originality report. So your research will supplement your argument, not dominate it. Again, about 15 to 20% is about an ideal number. Anything less than 15 is not enough. Anything more than 20%, you're actually relying too much on your sources. This will be your thesis statement, your primary points, your argument to develop the thesis. And again, that's where that pre-writing plan can come in as well to help you organize all of this. I want this essay to be an analysis of your chosen story, poem, or essay. I do not want a summary. Do not tell me, this is the, for example, if we were doing, say, My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. The poem opens up with the guy in an art studio in his place. He's visiting, or he's, receiving a visitor who is a marriage broker, and he pulls back a curtain of a painting of his ex-wife, and he starts talking about how his ex-wife did this, how she had a roving eye, and how she smiled at everybody, and she died, and now at the end they start leaving, and he starts talking about his Neptune statue and all that stuff. That is a summary, and that's unacceptable. You need to make sure that you give me an analysis. The questions that I asked you were designed to draw an analysis out of you, not a summary. So make sure that you do that. Your paper should be foregrounded in logos, not ethos or pathos. You may or may not have gotten this lesson in your earlier classes. In case you didn't, let me go ahead and explain what I mean by that. Aristotle, who was a great Greek philosopher back around 500 BC or somewhere thereabouts, actually wrote, he didn't really write it. He actually gave lectures on it. His students wrote it for him. But he had 3 modes of persuasion. And these modes were logos, ethos, and pathos. Let's start with ethos. Ethos is the ethics of the speaker. Ethos says, I am a speaker that you can trust because I'm a good person. I also like to group expertise under ethos as well. So remember, ethos means ethics. But I also like to put expertise in there. I can show you how to hit a baseball because I was a Major League Baseball player. Of course, I wasn't, but I'm using this as an example. Let's say that Tony Gwynn, who is one of the greatest hitters ever, writes a book on how to actually hit a baseball. Well, he has that authority because he was one of the greatest hitters in Major League Baseball history. So he can say, hey, I can teach you how to hit a baseball because I've done it, and I've done it at the highest level, and I'm in the Hall of Fame now. So that is an example of ethos. Pathos is emotion. Pathos gets dangerous when you use hate or anger. That's why you shouldn't use pathos too much. When you start getting red in the face and you start screaming out your argument, you're not using logos anymore. You're using pathos. You're using emotion as a way to try to influence your audience. That is pathos. And then you've got the logos, which is what I want you using here, which is using logic. Logos, an example of logos is if all men are mortal and Socrates is a man, then Socrates must be mortal. So you're using logic. You're taking premise A, premise B, you put them together, you must come to conclusion C. Logos is what your paper should be dominated by, not ethos or pathos. So that's what I expect in there as well. Moving on in my expectations, I expect direct quotes also in addition to direct quotes. In fact, use direct quotes. I know your teachers in the past may have said, oh, you can summarize or you can paraphrase. Don't do it in this paper. Because the problem that I have with students summarizing or paraphrasing is that it's not always clear where the paraphrasing or the summary begins and ends. So I'll be reading something and all of a sudden, bam, there's a citation. I'm like, well, wait, what the heck happened here? If you use direct quotes, it's clear because you've got it in closing quotation marks if it's a short quote, or if it's a long quote, you've got long quote formatting. Quotations, by the way, go into your MLA because you quote poetic lines. So let's say you choose to write about a poem, you quote poetic lines differently than you quote prose lines. So if you're writing about, let's say, Elizabeth Barrett Browning's Cry of the Children, you'll quote that poetry differently than if you were writing, say, about Mary Wollstonecraft's Vindication of the Rights of Woman, which is prose. So quotes, I expect direct quotes not only from your authors, but also from the source you're writing about. I've been requiring it in the postings. I'm going to require it just as much in the essay, and I'll probably require more quotes because your essay will be much longer than your postings. You use these direct quotes as a way to back up what you're saying. Do not use pure speculation. Don't say something along the lines of, well, she must have been an unhappy wife, unless you have good reasons for saying that she was an unhappy wife. And then use specific details. This is probably one of the things I'm going to comment most about on your first drafts, is you want specific details. You don't want to be vague. So use the specific details to back your points up. For example, don't use words like thing, stuff, some say, somewhat say. Be specific. Some scholars say. Because if you say some say, I'm like asking, okay, are you talking about scholars? Are you talking about astronauts? Are you talking about weenie dogs? I don't know. But if you say some scholars say, that's more specific. So be specific. Don't use vague generalities. Don't use words like stuff and thing and some and this or that unless it's clear what this or that is. You can say these or this quote means, but don't say this means because I'm like, well, what is this? Okay? So be specific. So those are my expectations. And again, you can contact me by email if you need clarification. You can come visit me in my office, which is what I prefer you do if you're in Albany, for clarification. It'd be nice to be able to put a face with some of the names anyway, because some of you I've never met. But those are my expectations for this. Then the rubric. This is how I'm going to score your essay. There's 100 possible points. Now, 20% of your grade comes from doing the topic proposal and the annotated bibliography. Those are all or nothing. Those are either 100 or 0. If you turn in by next week, the 15th, right? Yes. If by the 15th you turn in a topic proposal and an annotated bibliography, and it's clear to me that you've put some work into it, you get 100 on those. That means for your research paper, you start off with a grade of 100 just by hitting those two steps and at least putting some good effort into them. They don't have to be perfect, but they do have to be done, and they have to be submitted on time. So there it is. 20% of your grade right there comes out of that. The other 80% will come out of your essay, which is scored on a 100-point scale. 6 of those points will be the formatting. There is a handout in the MLA folder in D2L that explains to you step by step how to correctly format a paper in MLA formatting. Open that handout up if you've never done MLA formatting correctly before. Open up your Word program and follow the steps one by one. I swear to you, I've got pictures in there. I've got explanations in there. You should get the full 6 points on this without any trouble. And that includes the two things that people struggle on the most, which is the header and the spacing between paragraphs. So take the time to open that up and format this correctly, and you'll get all 6 of those points. Your thesis statement. The best way to think about a thesis statement is this. If I walk up to you right now, let's say you come into my office and you say, I'm working on a paper for your English 21, 22 class, or I'm working on your British literature paper. And I say, okay, good, what's your paper about? Your thesis statement should be your answer. My paper is about how I don't know, how Cry of the Children is a brilliant example of a poem that captures this pain and suffering that the children were going through, or the child workers were going through in the Industrial Revolution. Right there, boom, there's your thesis statement. Now I know what your entire paper is about. I kind of struggled with that because I was coming up with it off the top of my head, but by the time you get a thesis statement and you started writing that first draft, I should be able to say to you, hey, what's your paper about? And you should be able to, bam, come out with that thesis statement, and I will know what your paper is going to be about, and I'll be able to help you. So that's 10 points of your grade. 10 points is organization and structure. What I mean by this is you should have a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear end to your paper. It should be clear to me where the paper begins, which should be an introductory paragraph or two that ends with your thesis statement. By the way, I'm going to be looking for your thesis statement at the end of the opening paragraph. You may have it at the end of your second paragraph if necessary, but I really would like to see it at the end of the opening paragraph. So there should be a clear beginning. The middle, everything should be well organized. You shouldn't move on to point 2 until you finish talking about point 1. And then you should move on to point 3 until you finish talking about point 2, however many paragraphs each point takes. And then there should be a clear ending that ties everything up in a neat little bow and gives me a sense of closure. So that's the structure. Your pre-writing plan that I have in the research paper folder can help you with that. If you use that pre-writing plan, you should do well on the structure. The main points. Now notice I've got a sample that I put together here of like a baseball essay. So-and-so is going to win the World Series for these 3 reasons. My main points would be the strong pitching, the clutch hitting, and the excellent fielding. So there should be at least 3 main points in your essay that I can point to and say, okay, everything in this paragraph or these 2 paragraphs, whatever, is about this one main point. And your essay planning sheet can help you with that. And then the supporting details are how you develop each point. So if my main points are, and you can turn to the next page for this, if my main points are that a certain team is going to win the World Series because they have good, strong pitching, they have clutch hitting, and they have excellent fielding, then notice that my strong pitching is where I put in the statistics, and my strong pitching is where I put in the details. For example, the starters have the lowest ERA in the league. The middle relief has a lot of powerful arms, and the closer has never blown a save. Then again, in clutch hitting, you got more statistics, you got more quotes, you've got more facts to develop the fact that you're saying my team has good clutch hitting. One's because there's most RBIs in the league with a runner on 3rd and 2 out. Another is because a certain player leads the league in home runs and RBIs, and of course the most comeback wins in the 9th inning. So those are the details to develop the whole clutch hitting point, and then you see the fielding one as well. So all of your essays should have these qualities. Quotations formatting. This is where that link to the Purdue Owl, and this is where the My Blank English book can help you with formatting quotations correctly. If you quote lines from a poem, you need to quote them correctly. If it's 3 or fewer lines, you're going to go ahead and do a short quote, but you need that slash in between the actual lines to show me where the line breaks are, and they need to be in quotation marks. If you have 4 or more lines, whether it's poetry or whether it's prose, and that means 4 or more lines in your paper, not necessarily in the book, you need to set it off as a block quote, and that needs to be done correctly without the quotation marks on the outside, unless the author put them there. And your period should be before the citation instead of after, because in the short quote, the period should be after. These are all very nitpicky things, but I am going to look for this. So make sure that your quotations are formatted correctly. You notice that I have a link here in this handout. Lo and behold, there's a link that can help you with these quotation formatting. I also have that MLA link on your homepage. The use of quotations. Here's what I mean by the use of quotations. Do not stick in quotations because I require it. Your quotation should be seamless. It should integrate into the paper, and by the time I get done reading your quotation, I should know why you chose that particular quote and how you plan on using it. So definitely take the time to use your quotations properly. If you just stick in quotes for the sake of having quotes and they don't make any sense, then you'll get points counted off there. Your works cited page. Just like with the formatting, this should be an easy 10 points. If you use your cite tool, again, I'm going to say it for about the 20th time, there's a handout in the MLA folder on how to use the cite tool and how to create the hanging indent. use that handout to your advantage. Yeah, and if you do an annotated bibliography and turn it into me on time so I can make comments on it, then you should have no trouble whatsoever with getting the full 10 points there, because it's just a simple copy and paste. And you're allowed to do that because if 5 of you have the same article in your papers, all 5 of your works cited entries should be identical. So that's not plagiarism, that's following the MLA rules. So use the cite tool and use that handout, and your works cited page should be perfect. And then surface errors. If you have a problem with spelling, sentence fragments, run-on sentences, commas missing, things like that, I will count off points. I won't mark every single one of them. I'll mark a few and then say, this is a problem that has come out repeatedly in your papers, and I will count off those points. So make sure that you have a nice clean paper. The Writing Center can help you with this, or maybe a trusted reader. By trusted reader, I don't mean your brother-in-law who happens to, have a college degree in art. I mean, that probably isn't going to help you much. Not that artists are bad. I love the art program at Dart, and I think it's a great program. But I don't know that some of these art students would be useful in helping you to write an English paper. They'd probably be more useful to you in helping you to create a nice sculpture or something like that. So I will, notice that that's about a quarter of the grade, about 24 points, has to do with your surface errors. And if you lose all 24 of those points because your paper's a grammatical mess, well, you bet you can get a C as it is. So make sure you're not making too many errors. All right, so that's it. That's the research paper. Yes, I did run over the 30 minutes, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to be a little bit thorough. You can play this video over and over again if you have to. If there's anything you need clarification on, please go ahead and contact me through email or through calling me on the telephone, or actually visiting my office. But make sure you've at least read these instructions and watched this video first before you start asking me questions, because I'm pretty short on patience with students who don't bother to open the instructions before asking questions that are clearly in there. All right, so that's it. So I hope you find this video helpful. I hope you find these instructions helpful. And again, feel free to contact me if you need to. And that's about all I have to say about the research paper.